Avengers!
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talking SMAC, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and much, much more. I'm your host, Josh Scar, and joining me, as always, is everyone's favorite, not quite fluffy, but always high energy, Tabaxi man, Alex. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Just got back from doing nothing, and I'm ready to do more something while also doing nothing. Exactly. I saw a red dot on the wall. I might be a little distracted because I keep kind of. It's moving. It's moving.
Are you one of those cats that does the DJ thing where, like, you see, if you swing it from side to side, you go.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I also do the double paw thing where I put a paw on it and then put a paw on top of my paw because it's on top of my paw, so I put it on top of the other paw, and then I do like pawception.
The infinite stack, yes.
Exactly. And then I fall over.
We're recording on a big day, Alex. Game of Thrones House of the Dragon is starting again. Literally, as I hit record, the theme intro should be running right now. So we're gonna wrap this up pretty quick because we got things to watch.
Copyright strike.
Do they still? I can't even remember. It's been so long since that show. It's only been like 14 months since the last one ended, but it feels like forever.
Oh, it does.
Because we did a double review with that and Dungeons and Dragons, so that would have been March of last year.
Mm-hmm.
How is that?
Feels so much longer.
It's 15 months ago, and yet it feels like a lifetime. Like, what is time? What is anything? I mean, I'm not trying to get existential before we talk about Inside Out 2, but it's still just one of those feelings with how these shows are produced now that it just time is broken with TV.
Oh, wow. Actually, we are wrong.
Was it 2022?
It has been 22 months.
It's been 2 years?
August 21st was the first episode, so we would have reviewed it late December, early November of 22.
But didn't we record it with Dungeons and Dragons?
I feel like that's accurate, but now I'm not so sure. Maybe it was the last Boys season?
No, I don't think we've talked The Boys. Now I got to look this up.
I'm scrolling back.
That was like
quickly.
episode 87, I think. It wasn't 60.
Black Adam and House of the Dragon.
This is Black Adam?
It's episode 67.
It was... What the fuck, man? You know what? Yeah, that's right. Because I was in Dallas when it debuted. I think the first like 2 episodes had dropped when I went to Dallas for the podcast convention down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we did Black Adam and Dungeons and Dragons on the same episode?
No, it was Black Adam and House of the Dragon.
Black Adam and House of the Dragon. Okay, what did we do with Dungeons and Dragons? Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. I did a double feature. I went back and watched that. And then I told you about it. And the Skittles unicorns.
Yeah, because I still haven't watched that. So
it's absolutely okay.
Yeah.
It's the same as Blue Beetle. Like it's fine. Just Blue Beetle gets a different twist on it because it's an origin story and people are sick of origin stories.
So I went to the quote unquote good movie theater up in Beloit, and we only had 3 trailers, which is really nice. And one of them was like Harvey and the Purple Crayon.
Oh, Harold and the Purple Crayon. Yeah,
Harold and Purple, and Zachery Levi is the head of it. He's like Harold.
That didn't look as terrible. Like maybe it's my parental brain. I don't know, but it didn't look as terrible as I thought it would. It looks formulaic as hell,
right?
But it doesn't look terrible.
Yeah, Zachery Levi has this. He has this naturally boyish energy charm, and my wife kind of leaned over to me when the trailer ended, and she went, "Okay, so Shazam doesn't work out, so he's making a Green Lantern movie." Because instead of the green light, it is the purple crown of doom that can be passed from person to person. If the ring so chooses you, so does the crown.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen Lyle Lyle Crocodile, if you've seen Paddington, like those are better versions of this. But it still doesn't look terrible. Like it looks like it should go straight to streaming. But it's a family friendly romp, which like, yeah, okay, we could use more of those.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, spoiler alert on a trailer, but his friend who with the moose that turns into a person, but then under duress turns back into a moose. That's going to be fun as hell.
I want to know. It feels like the porcupine lady was added in post production or something, because
Mm-hmm.
why is she not even there in the entire trailer? Like, she shows up twice in human form. It's like when they first arrived, and then randomly in another scene that's in the dark.
Yeah, that was really odd.
I'm guessing she's maybe the Jiminy Cricket of the movie, so like her scenes aren't entirely as interesting or funny as the moose.
Maybe that would be her name is Tanya Reynolds. People would know her from Netflix's Sex Education. She was one of the main stars of the first 3 seasons or so. I mean, it looks fun. You got Levi Howery, you got Zoe Deschanel, Jermaine Clement. It does look endearing, but it also is an August release, so I'm assuming that they're hoping it can get some legs after Deadpool 3 comes out.
Yeah, it's a back to school feature. Like, oh, let's go to the movies one more time before school starts up again.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
With that, I was. Did you get the Wild Robot trailer? Like, I was certain we would get the Wild Robot trailer in
Mm-mm.
front of this, because they just released it, like the new trailer Wednesday, and I took my two oldest to go see Inside Out 2, not quite IMAX theater.
Yeah,
I was like, I can't wait to see this on the big screen. I want to see like the detail in the animation, and I want to see just like every pixel. And we didn't get it. We got Moana 2, we got Harold and the Purple Crayon, we didn't even get the new Paddington trailer. They released the new Paddington in Peru trailer, and we didn't even get that.
yeah. We only got three because there were longer trailers, and it was Despicable Minions 12.
Just yeah, Despicable Me 4 was one of the other ones that we got.
Yeah, and then that one, and I don't even remember the other one. It just went over in my head. I saw I guess the longer Disney intro for this one, which starts at like I thought was like some kind of teaser for HBO's Hogwarts or something, because it starts off in like that little village and then kind of scales up and around. You see briefly a train before the
Mhm.
castle. It's the longer version that.
It's the new it's the 100-year anniversary one that they created, but now it's just their standard one. They just got rid of the 100 years of Disney. But since you brought it up, I was going to bring it up when we started talking the review, but we'll get to our promo in a second. Where the fuck is my Pixar short?
Yes, I have not seen a Pixar movie in theaters since COVID.
Pre-pandemic. Yeah. Because they haven't released one, really.
But they always put a short. It's normally
There's
it's normally
always a
hand
short.
drawn. Yeah, it's normally hand drawn. They
Well, it's usually because like Wally had the magician one, that
oh
was
yeah,
3D
you're right.
animated.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
it varies, but like I remember very vividly that Wreck-It Ralph had the oh shit, I'm forgetting the name of it now. I think Paperman,
Mm-hmm.
the very cute like Jim and Pam kind of story, where you had like the tall lanky dude and the short girl, pretty girl, and they're like star-crossed lovers, and like, oh, she just happens to have a job interview across the street, and he's trying to throw his paperwork from his desk job over at her, and he's getting in trouble, and like whimsical amazingness happens, and it's a beautiful short, and it won the Academy Award that year for best animated short, which I know I said I want my Pixar short, and this is a Disney animation short, but my point still stands that those shorts are usually amazing. And
Yeah,
why
they're
didn't we get one?
fantastic.
I don't care that I would have been in the theater for an extra 10 minutes.
No,
Those are
not at all.
usually really good. And like my middle child, they were watching Piper, which I believe it played in front of Finding Dory, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they were watching a bunch of these Pixar shorts, and those are perfect for kids their age growing up in the TikTok era, where watching something for 30 seconds to 6 minutes is like the max that they can pay attention to something.
Yeah,
And I was just like, wait a minute, why are we just diving into this?
that threw me off because it's normally like not a palate cleanser, but it's an what is it, an aperitif or whatever they call it, a kind of like
Appetizer,
rouge
yeah,
bouche. Yeah,
it's an opening act.
where it wets the palate, it settles you in. You're like, oh, this is a longer thing. It settles you down. It has the kids pay attention. The adults like, oh yeah, something's happening, and then it rolls into it. And many times those win the Oscar for short, and it's how to get it in this. It is how to get these creators in front of a very large audience with Pixar's backing. But it's kind of sad we didn't get one.
Hmm. We probably won't get one in front of Moana either. I don't think Wish had a short in front of that one either. I
Mm-mm.
think the short they were gonna do was the Once Upon a Studio, and then they just released it on Disney Plus because content.
Yeah, content.
But speaking of good content, we're going to hear from our friend Antonio over at the Cultworthy Podcast, and we will be right back.
The Cultworthy Podcast. Join me, Antonio Palacios, each week as I guide you through a never-ending sea of obscure cinema and cult-worthy gems that deserve a rediscovery. Find me on all listening platforms and at thecultworthy.com. The Cultworthy Podcast. Join us.
And we are back, much like the feelings of one Riley Anderson for Inside Out 2. I'm going to be upfront on this, Alex. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very cute, but it really, it's kind of like Mary Poppins Returns, where it just
Mm-hmm.
covers the same beats, but with a new sheen on it. And you walk away feeling good. Like, I don't know that there's too much to really dive into without like repeated viewings, but
Yeah.
overall, it really just it felt like the same movie. It just it added a little bit of a new curveball because like the new thing that they're doing in this one, instead of it being joy is Riley's primary emotion, and now she's not there to guide the collective emotional group. She now has grown into a young person who has a set of core beliefs, and this is like personified essentially in the or not personified, but like symbolized in Riley's mind and headquarters as this beautiful little award looking knot. And I like that a lot, especially where they go with it in the ending. When we talk a little bit of spoilers, we'll get more into it. But her core belief system becomes corrupted, we'll say, when anxiety, embarrassment, envy is the star of this show. I
Oh
don't care
yeah.
what anyone says. I saw a video on how to pronounce her name properly. It's like Io Adebari, which I had previously pronounced it Ayo Edebiri, but I believe it's properly pronounced Io Adebari. So I will do my best to try and make sure that is the way I pronounce it. Ennui is the other one. So there's 4 new emotions: embarrassment, anxiety, envy, and ennui. And then you have your previous 5. And as we saw in the trailer, anxiety and the new crew essentially bottle up the previous emotions, and they're going to go do something to Riley to change her. And that's kind of where the main crux of the story happens. But let's talk more broadly to start. Like I've given my basic premise, Alex. Where do you stand on it so far?
My basic feeling of it is that I enjoyed it. The first one came out almost 10 years ago, and it really emotionally resonated with me because it was a story of a young child who moves from one place to another and feels out of sorts and lost his school. I moved around quite a bit as a child, something like 17, 18 schools, maybe more before 5th grade. And right around the age Riley was, 11 is when we kind of made the final move. But even then, we still moved around that city a lot of different schools. Growing up poor sucks for continuity, especially when you face things like eviction and living on friends' couches and stuff as a child. Parents, friends, couch. So it really emotionally resonated with me that the struggle between joy and fear and all and anger and all of that. It really worked for me. I loved it. I loved how it ended up. So going into this one, I went into this one fairly blind because I chose not to watch any of the new trailers other than the original announcement. And I was like, oh, okay. And I got a little peripheral awareness because cosplayers immediately latch on to anxiety because it is a very strong figure and look and dynamic. And I saw some of them like cosplaying the different ones. I don't know if officially sanctioned or just because that's what cosplayers do. So I was happy to go into it fairly blind. And there is a lot of great little joy in there. Riley's turning 13. The puberty button that was teased in the last one gets hit. And what comes out from that? But 5 new emotions, Josh. How dare you forget nostalgia?
Oh yeah, nostalgia. How could I forget nostalgia?
Yeah, for 2 jokes in the entire film.
You're not supposed to be here for 5 to 10 to 15 more years.
Exactly. I love that joke. And I what I appreciate about I think Disney is getting to the point where maybe they need to scale back a little bit of their hyperrealism, But I love that it's the second Riley is hit with puberty, she has like blemishes on her skin and one prominent pimple just to kind of the edge of her chin, which that doesn't stop as an adult, as I was promised.
Yeah. Yep. I've got a couple right there. It always happens when I shave.
Yep, exactly. And then that she smells immediately, so her parents are giving her deodorant. And there is a locker room scene where she is going to this camp, and the first shot is like the other girls just rubbing deodorant vigorously on this, which I appreciate, because my mom used to tell me, she's like, I get home from school and she'd be like, oh, you smell like boy, go shower. And so overall, I enjoyed it, but it is a case of diminishing returns.
The gimmick doesn't work quite as well the second time around.
No, there are, not for spoilers or anything, but this movie is fairly short. It is 96 minutes, including the credits, with a teaser at the very, very end, a little stinger like they did at the last one. Yeah,
little post credits, yeah.
And there are moments in this film where it is groaning under the weight of its own padding, of trying to get to that 90-minute mark.
There's at least one scene, which I don't think it's huge spoilers, so I'm going to get into it here. There's a scene where they're on their trek back to headquarters, and they make their way into Imagination Land, because we have to remind everyone of the first movie. But things are changing because Riley's changing, and anxiety is now running headquarters. And we get an IBM. Was it IBM or was it FedEx that did the giant screen smashing? I know Futurama parodied it, but I can't remember if it was FedEx or IBM.
That's Apple. That's Apple's 1984 commercial release that they think released during the Super Bowl.
Okay. I think FedEx parodied it too, though. And then, I think you're right. Apple did it, was the original one. But yeah, like they threw that in there because like that's a reference kids are going to understand.
Yeah. There were some long moments where it's just like, okay, let's go. Let's get this story, because it's a lot of the same beats. Joy's leading the group. Instead of just leading Sadness, she's leading the others. They have to go to this place in Riley's mind.
They have to go to the back of her mind because the core beliefs get jettisoned through MacGuffinisms to the back of Riley's mind. I do want to talk a little bit about the cast, because Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling are not back. Right. Apparently Disney offered Amy Poehler like $5 million to reprise as Joy, and everyone else got $100,000, which is or they got $100,000 offer, which is bullshit. Not only because everyone has larger roles in this movie, Joy, but because everyone has larger roles, Joy's role is kind of diminished. She doesn't have as much screen time and dialogue as she had in the first movie. She's not the driving force of this one like she was the last one. It's more a group thing because everyone is trying to understand who this new Riley is. So the fact that they gave Amy Poehler $5 million, like, good for Amy Poehler for making $5 million. That's not her fault that Disney went, you're worth $5 million. The rest of you are not. But Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling turned down the offers. The change to Forky, I'm forgetting his name. He played Buster in Arrested Development. Tony something, I want to say.
Tony Hale.
Yes. He comes in as Fear, which I think that's fine. He does a pretty good job. Like it's a pretty noticeable difference, but it fits. It still fits the character pretty well. With Disgust, you could have told me that was Alicia Silverstone in the first movie, and I would have believed you. Mindy Kaling brought nothing unique to that role, and I didn't even know that was Mindy Kaling until like 2 or 3 years ago.
I don't know, because the first one is so focused on just sadness and joy. It didn't really connect with me that they were different voices. The only one I would have really, really known if they were changed out would have been Anger, because Lewis Black is such a definitive voice.
Yes. And he's given a bigger role in this one too. And I think he does a really good job because they're showing the emotions mature, at least the primary emotions maturing. But like everyone kind of has their own different moments. Like we've seen in the previous movie, Joy goes into a bit of a fit of sadness. She cries. But in this one, she has a fit of anger, and Anger has like a look on his face like, there's my girl. Yeah. And then he like they immediately flip it around too, where he has a very sincere moment. Like he's not just raging and be like, let's fucking go. Like
Yeah.
he's not even just like hyper aggressive and happy in his glee. He's really somber in that moment, and it's like it's nice to see those little things, because it does kind of foreshadow what's in the future, because we see like all the other emotions in adults typically are just all very even keeled, and everyone just kind of cues up when they're ready. And this movie, I think, is starting to foreshadow all of that. I do think that the way they handle anxiety is really interesting, because anxiety kind of encapsulates not only just like that feeling that we get and the thing we associate with anxiety attacks and just like panic and everything, but anxiety's role initially when she shows up is she's planning for Riley's future. She's got a game plan going forward, and she's like, if we do this and we do this and we do this, we'll be popular, we'll have friends,
Yeah.
we'll succeed in life. And it's like, wow, anxiety kind of does do that, because we're so nervous about the future, we have to try and prioritize things.
Mhm.
And it put a really interesting personification of anxiety, and a good encapsulation of what anxiety can do for someone that's not just a negative.
Right. It kind of they did a good job of explaining its place and everything. They didn't really give enough of to the other three emotions of embarrassment, ennui, and envy to really kind of set what their places are, which was a little disappointing. But ultimately, the movie's objective was, everything's got to balance out, which, was the message of the first one, which is what I'm saying with the diminishing returns. But even so, even though I don't necessarily connect to this one as much as the first one, because the first one's story of moving and friendship and all that crap, I do still connect to this one because, reaching a point as a teenager and finding out we're not all going to high school together, we're not all doing this together, we have different interests, trying to balance what is happening and the acceptance I want from people that I'm going to be in school with now, and what is it looking like to be friends? Can I still be friends with people that I no longer see 9 to 5 every day and have to make time after school or the weekends? Those still resonate, and those are still good stories to explore. I, off the top of my head, I haven't thought of like a way they could have done this movie without doing a complete retread. I don't think I necessarily need a third one, but I still think this one, there's enough poignancy with this one that if the first one in my mind is like an A plus, this one's a solid B. A solid B.
I think B plus, A minus. It's right in there. Like it. I don't know that it hits that Pixar classic, just because, as you said, it's a retread. It's something that it's diminishing returns again, as you said, but it's still just refreshing for some reason. And
Oh, yeah.
I think it's because it is relatable, which weirdly enough, Disney's like, we're not going to do relatable stories for people anymore. And yet can you look up the box office really quick? I think the last I saw, the domestic was like 155 was the projected for the weekend box office, and then like 265 globally.
Yeah, so this movie heading into this weekend, they were foreseeing it around 85 to 90, and after Friday, they're projecting 155 right now for the US and 295 worldwide, which would make it the biggest opening of the year, far surpassing Dune, which Dune is the big dog at the moment.
But I think it's even outpacing Mario from last year.
Oh yeah, it is.
I don't know that it'll have the legs that Mario did, only because we're in a summer box office now, whereas Mario had March into May to just coast as like the animated movie of the year at that point.
I had first seen some projections, and the first one opened up to around 90 or 91 US, and so people were like, well, they're going to be happy about 80 to 85. That's 10 years ago with inflation.
I think for a sequel, yeah, that's still pretty good in today's economy. With it, like I felt my hair turn gray when I said that. In today's market, yeah, like going from a 90 million opener in 2015 to a 90 opener in 2024, like I think I would consider that a net positive, just because of the way the box office has been performing.
Yeah, and I would say, since you brought up this in this economy, You took your children to an IMAX? Do you know how much money what is the interest on those credit cards that you're charging right now, sir?
I had a gift card that I got for Father's Day. Thank you very much.
And you spent it on your children. You are a good dad.
It's true. I even bought them ices and popcorn. It was a good day.
Wow, like $500 gift card. Damn.
Yeah, I know. My mom loves me. So before we get into spoilers, there are two not plot points. There are two sequences in the movie that I thought were either going to play a bigger role or one where I'm like, you were going to play an emotional point, an emotional card, but you held back, and I appreciate it. So I think it's the scene where they shoot the day's bad memories off to the back of Riley's mind.
Yeah.
And they show the dump where like all the memories go to be forgotten, and where Bing Bong died in the last movie. And it's from that angle in the dump where instead of letting these memories fade from Riley, they're just getting jettisoned to the back of her mind to like linger in her subconscious or something. I don't even know. Like, that's me just speculating as to like what happens to memories that are just thrown out of her mainstream of consciousness. The way that shot was done, it was either foreshadowing the dump was going to make a return of some kind, or I think that shot was longer and it was going to fade down just a little bit to show us Bing Bong's rocket.
Aww.
And that's exactly the thing they wanted to do. But I think they probably got feedback on it and they were like, don't do that. Why would you show me this if you're not going to bring back Bing Bong?
Yeah. Or you could go really morbid and like, Bing Bong's corpse is somewhere down.
He faded away and he's cotton candy. Like, he doesn't have a corpse.
But by getting his sled, they can revive him.
There you go.
And he's brought back with some archival voice work. Use the sled, Joy.
I did like Joy's origami Bing Bong that she had in her little bed nook.
Yeah, that was adorable.
Both my kids got really excited when they saw that. And I was like, yeah, that's a nice little touch. Of course, Joy would have that of him. Just a little lasting memory for her. And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on was they make a point at the very beginning when they're showing off the new islands that make up Riley's core. What is it? The core memories. But they make it a point to either show like how big the other islands are, and in comparison to Family Island, or Family Island has shrunk. And I thought that was going to play a role because the parents, when she gets dropped off for hockey camp, are like, make sure you get in touch with us, text us, call us, whatever. And I was like, what's the point of the family stuff that we've been talking very blatantly about when it has no consequence or doesn't come up ever again at the end of the movie?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. I think that was more of just a gag. The whole like, now that you're 13 and you've hit puberty, family's small. Friend Island is where it's at, kids.
I mean, I get that, but there's just something off about the way they delivered it.
Yeah, the way they did make it so that that Sadness had to get out a pair of binoculars to really zoom in to like, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it could have been padding.
It's a nitpick. Yeah, that's true. It's very much a nitpick, and I'm aware of it, and I acknowledge it. I just also want to say I think there was something more that they were going to try and do, but they cut it down, and they just left the padding in.
Like, listen, we have to have at least 10 showings per theater a day, guys. We have to, come on, cut this down.
So let's get into spoilers. So full spoilers for Inside Out 2. Not that there's too many to really spoil at this point. Go ahead.
If people are going to skip, like void spoilers, we have to give our SMAC rating first.
Sure, true. Alex, is it a must see or pass?
Oh, it's a must see. It's adorable.
Agreed. It's must see. Even if you think you have seen this movie, I don't think you have quite seen this movie through the trailers. You can kind of predict where it's going to go because, like we said, it does hit a lot of the same beats, but it still works.
Mm-hmm.
It still feels good to see it. And if you watched Inside Out 1 and Inside Out 2 back to back, I don't think you would be bored. I think it does enough stuff that's different. I do think the Imagination Land stuff especially could have been cut entirely. It's just there to make the IBM Apple reference, and it's there to kind of show anxiety's descent into madness, panic
Yeah.
mode, whatever you'd want to call it.
Let's hit some spoilers, Josh. You want to go first or me?
Yeah, I'll go first. So the way I thought this movie was going to go was going to be more. I didn't think they were going to do the fetch quest again.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I like the core belief system, but I thought it was going to be more just like they had been foreshadowing that Riley was becoming more of an individual. Like she was less reliant on her emotions to push her in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more like Riley's core belief system was turning her into a fully functional person. She's becoming rational. She's capable of making her own decisions. The emotions don't control her as much. And with anxiety coming in and planning out her entire life from the moment she shows up, I was like, okay, so this is going to be about power battle between joy and anxiety. And the resolution is going to be at some point, there's going to be an anxiety attack, because you don't bring in anxiety without an anxiety attack happening. That's your time bomb. But it's going to be Riley doing something and the emotions kind of realizing like, oh, Riley knows who she is. And it kind of gets to that point, but only through the actions and the journey that the emotions take in her mind that eventually causes everything to fall into place for her.
Right. I thought that there was going to be more maybe of a battle between anxiety and when the other emotions, until I realized that anxiety was literally just a replacement for joy. And so she's in charge, and the others are just there to, well, Ennui's case, just chill on the couch. Which Ennui, having a remote control for the board, chefs.
If they made an Apple IBM reference, they could not have made Ennui go, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah. When I realized was that's to me is the most disappointing part of this film, is that Joy's back out there again. She has to go and get something from the middle of nowhere. There's instead of Bing Bong, they have Pouchy, I guess, the cartoon character that's there to help them out and all that. And
I did appreciate that they did the like differing animation styles in a new way. Like you had a video game character who's like from PS2 era stuff.
Yeah.
And then you had Pouchy, who is Dora the Explorer, and Handy Manny and Steve from Blue's Clues all mixed into one. Bluefy, I think, was the dog's name that Pouchy was tied to.
Talking to the wall.
The voice of Bluefy is so familiar, and I need to look it up. I meant to watch it, but my kids needed to get to the bathroom to get through the credits.
Ron Funches.
Really, I don't think I recognize that name. What else has he been in?
He's a comedian. He's been in BoJack Horseman, Puss in Boots, Adventure Times. He's been in a bunch of random stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
He had a voice that sounded really familiar, but like I couldn't quite place him. But I thought he did that role really well.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest secret, I was it just like the dark secret or whatever they called him.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little disappointed that was left for a post-credit scene. I thought that would be the Deus Ex Machina or something. Like I thought he would break out and just like chuck him back into headquarters.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that they left the reveal of what the big dark secret truly is until a post-credit scene, because they want certain people to be projecting like, oh, is Riley gay? Or like I feel like the cynic in me is like, they want people to speculate because they know not everyone's going to stick around for after the credits. Which the big dark secret was she burned the rug when she was younger. Like, okay, like, yeah, I can understand a 13-year-old still being like, oh, like I kicked a hole in the wall when I was rollerblading in my house, and my dad, as far as I know, never knew that I did it. Like, I'm sure my mom told him, but I never came clean about it.
I really appreciate the way that they do anxiety. It's especially, I struggle with that so much. I mean, it's gotten a lot better, but I did like that they portrayed it as it's an intentionally helpful emotional mechanism that, when given free reign, is an absolute monster. And it doesn't intend to be. There were moments in this where I was just bored. The vault part went on too long for me, especially when they had Blue Feet. You know, like who's he talking to? They showed him talking to the wall, and then it was like the second or third.
I like that gag.
Yeah, but it was like the second or third time where they're like going through. He's doing his shtick. I'm like, okay, and then how long is it going to take them to fight with Joy over and over again about does she know where she's going? Why doesn't she have a plan? But there are moments of saving grace because ennui saying I've waited my whole life for this to hit the sarcasm button. And what sarcasm does is actually disrupts memories and it causes in your mind a sarcasm. And so in real life, you're being a sarcastic bastard. And in your mind, across the chasm, anything you say is sarcastically reinterpreted.
That was really well done. Like that was, and that bit was handled really well. Like I think they literally only used like 3 lines of dialogue. Like, oh boy, are we so happy to see you guys? Oh boy, are we so happy to see you guys?
You guys are great. What was it? I think they call them lifters or something like that. You guys are great. You guys are so great at lifters. Fantastic.
There is a lot of good. This could have been a 90, specifically 90, 85-minute movie, and it would have been just as good, I think.
Yeah.
The jailbreak scene was a little too long. Like the elaborate gag of the police brain cells, mind police, whatever they call them getting rolled into a vault to let them escape. That was too long.
Yeah.
That was the Austin Powers steamroller gag, but done even worse, which I hate that gag. That's a gag. I hate that gag. Like I get it. You don't need to make that a 4-minute sequence.
Okay, it was done better in Deadpool with the ice machine where it's like I'm gonna run you over in about 5 minutes.
Oh, the Zamboni, yeah.
Because that's part of a montage, and that's a lot quicker.
Yeah, that is better. So like, yeah, there are moments where, yeah, like you said, they're padding things out, but the main plot is centered around Riley and her friends. They're going to a hockey camp because they get invited to be part of the high school hockey camp where they can basically try out for the team before tryouts actually happen. But on the way out, Riley figures out that her friends are not going to be in the same school with her. Or she knows something's up, and they come clean that they're not going to be at the same school. So Riley is now torn between, I'm losing my safety net of my friends, and do I have to try and make new friends for these other kids that I'm going to be in school with? And anxiety is like, okay, well, we're basically just going to ditch our old friends and we're going to focus on the potential new friends. And I like that a lot because it is, I think if there was one thing I would change about this movie, I would have introduced pride. That would have been an emotion that needed to be there, some kind of ego character.
I can see that.
So that like that could be part of everything too, where Riley is being praised and hyped up as like a little bit better. She's making everyone around her better, but she's the best. And that way she's constantly like in that battle of my friends need me more than I need them.
Yeah.
But we know that's not true because but it's her hurt feelings that are trying to make her justify it in a way.
I can see that, especially since it starts off with Joy. Basically, Riley's the best thing ever. She's always great at everything. And anytime that there is a memory that it seems like anytime there's a memory that Joy is not associated with, she chucks it into the back of the mind mountain, which is where they need to go to get that certain sense of self-worth that anxiety chucks to try to replace. And so I can see pride being an emotion that is accidentally created by Joy because of Joy's insistence on being in charge.
I appreciate what they did with anxiety, especially with the way they pay it off.
Oh,
but that could have been really interesting if they just did a doppelganger Joy, where she just like splits. Oh, yeah. And you have the anti-Joy who is pride.
Yeah.
I think that could have been interesting.
So I don't have a whole lot to say about the movie itself until the kind of the culmination with anxiety's overload of Riley.
Yes, that is the best payoff of this movie. And I think the way that they pay it off in the resolution to the conflict as well, where Joy, I mean, what I'm saying kind of has already happened, where Joy has been treating Riley the way Anxiety has, but she's been doing it with, like, as you said, chucking all the bad memories to the back of the mind and not letting Riley truly understand who she is. She's been
Right.
manipulating Riley to just be like, I'm a good person. I'm a great friend. I'm good overall.
Yeah.
But she's never let her self-doubt or anything take over either. And so she's never had to deal with these. And like, as you were saying, when Anxiety takes over and Anxiety's been building all these different things, they finally push her to read the coach's notebook that she keeps on the players during this hockey camp. And it says, Riley's not ready yet.
Right.
And that triggers Riley into just complete self-doubt, where she says, I'm not good enough. And that's just her core personality.
Yep.
And she's trying to push herself, which I think that's maybe one of the biggest flaws of this movie as well, building up to the climax and Anxiety, is that I think Riley needed to struggle once that became her core belief.
I do have issues with Riley sneaking off to like read the book, because that's the only part where I don't feel that that's necessarily an anxiety thing. To me, that's more of a fear, a neglect, of a self-loathing or thing. To me,
and that could have been an envy thing too, because like maybe her friends, we don't see a lot of what's going on in the camp. Maybe her friends could have been doing really well without her, and so now she starts to have that self-doubt.
Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't really think made sense for Anxiety, because anxiety is a planner, and I get that they try to manipulate it that, well, to plan for the future we need to know what's in the book, and it's like, yeah, but
that's a stretch, because you could easily just make envy the thing that pushes her, because like envy is a good merchant. Like, yeah, we got to play the soundbite.
Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
If anyone from this movie is going to be merchandised, it's going to be Envy. She's adorable. Io Adebury plays that role really well, and I think that that's her moment. Like,
oh yeah,
she needs to be as good as the girl that she's idolizing. She needs to be as better than her friends. Like, there's the envy right there. But I guess they can't make the merchandising opportunity the bad guy.
I think they skipped a little bit, because they show that Riley kind of abandons her friends, and so she joins the team of the high school that she wants to be on, that she is going to and wants to be on that team. Her friends are on the other team. I don't think they actually showed enough that, and I didn't realize it till somewhere midway through the final. Anxiety's in full control. It's the final game. She has to impress the coach, because Anxiety's telling her, you're not good enough. That's her new core belief. So she's being a puck hog and all this stuff. That goalie's her friend. She is hammering that goalie over and over. And they kind of gloss over that with the resolution with the friends, which I understand why they do that. But I think that is also something they could have spent a little more time with, which is like, dude, Riley, you're doing this superstar crap. You're making us look horrible. You're attacking us, your friends. Mm-hmm. It's over one thing that you move to this, you're sitting, you're with these other girls, which is perfectly fine. But your accomplishment is coming at the sacrifice of humiliation of your friends on the ice. I don't think they explored that as much as they should have.
Yeah, and I if they're going to pad anything out, that's the thing you pad out, because that's the emotional hook of the movie. No pun intended. Is we need to be more invested in Riley and her friendships. And if we're not invested in what they're doing and the conflict that's arising out of Riley feeling dejected from her friends, even though through no fault of their own, they're not going to be able to go to the same school as her.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that was a missed opportunity for this movie. And maybe that's the missing ingredient that maybe keeps us in the B+ area and not the A- area. But overall, I do think this is well worth it. And I think the money it's surprisingly earning is well earned.
Oh, very well earned. So the end of it culminates with Riley on the ice trying to, because Anxiety tells her you have to be better than everyone else. So instead of scoring 2 goals, which her idol scored, she has to score 3, and she gets benched because she cracks one of her friends to steal the puck, just slams her into the wall. She gets 2 minutes for roughing, and she then is sitting there, and there's this flurry of activity. Anxiety's trying to like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to do this. She still has to score 3 this. There's no more time on the board, all this stuff. And anxiety goes into a full overload, trying to do everything at once. And she has an anxiety panic attack, which, by the way, as I said, Pixar maybe needs to stop with hyperrealism, but there's like the sweat and the gripping of the heart with the sound. I've had a few of those. Dear God, that was like, you're like, yeah, it sucks. It's terrible and it's horrible. And you don't know what to do. Your body is trying to figure out what is going on with your mind. Your mind's rushing through like, am I dying? Am I this? What's going on with me? Why is it, everything is just in super overload. And they did that so well through not only what's happening in the mind by basically showing anxieties everywhere at once on the board and frozen, but also kind of like system locked frozen. While Riley is in the box, just heart racing, sweating, gripping her chest, hyperventilating, like that.
Yeah, everything is breaking around her, and it's just sending her into a spiral. And it's done so well. Like she potentially hurt her friend. She's not making a good impression on her potential new friends and teammates. She's making a bad impression on the coach, and now she's in the penalty box by herself. She can't do anything. And did you catch the after the resolution when Joy and the core belief system is reset? Did you catch the reference to the first movie when she got back on the ice?
No.
So when she calls Joy back to the console and Joy is controlling her as she's skating again, she starts skating in that routine the first night that Joy is in charge of the console in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was a really beautiful moment because it's the color palette and everything is just absolutely fantastic. It's oranges and yellows and it's just beautiful. Yeah. But she's in the middle of a hockey scrimmage. She doesn't have time to do quick little figure skating moments. I like that moment because I understood what they were going for. But again, putting things into perspective, and she's in a hockey tryout, maybe we're not going to skip around on the ice and do little minuets or whatever.
Yeah. Like, I do like the resolution, which is that anxiety has to willingly give control up, which I did like. That anxiety is, even in that moment, is crying because they're panicking of like, I don't know what I did wrong. I'm just trying to protect this person. And that it takes all the emotions to break the new core self, and then all the flood of hidden memories that Joy had locked away, hidden sorrows.
I love that moment.
Rolling forward and forming a person. And it is the same resolution as the first movie. You have to have everyone in control. Every emotion has its place and meaning. And so as a person, you're constantly experiencing all 9 or 10 emotions all at once, and they define you. But it is, who do you let run yourself from moment to moment? And I do like that. And I really did like it, that her solution to her anxiety, the panic attack, and her friends forgiving her, like, dude, you've been kind of a jerk, but you know, we get it. We're still friends. Is that I need to embrace my love of the game again. I like that. Mm-hmm. That's sweet.
Yeah. The ending, for what the movie set up, I think the ending was pitch perfect. I think it flowed and it made sense. Again, the only thing, if anything, I would have wanted more out of this movie was establishing more of the conflict between Riley and her friends to up the stakes for what Joy and the other emotions are doing, while anxiety is building the new Riley.
Yeah. For being a retread, it was still good. And it just doesn't hit as hard, but it's still great. And I do like the voice, Maya Hawke, who did Anxiety. They had enough of that kind of like pitch of like, I'm just trying to be really helpful here, don't mind me, kind of thing. I did like that.
There's a little layer of unsureness behind it too. Yeah. And like, it that was pitch perfect as well.
Yeah. So it was good. I recommend it. I am curious if, you know, what kind of legs this thing has, because I can see some people.
Big question.
Yeah, I can see some people going like, okay, yeah, we all saw it opening weekend, and it was the first movie. It was good. It's just the first movie again. You know, there is a part of me that is just a pinch sad that this movie wasn't the continuation of the panic button of boy, because I remember watching that in theaters, and she like bumps into this other guy, and the whole panic alert of the system, boy, and my friends who I'm sitting there with, my wife and my best friend, they just burst out laughing. They're like, yep, being an 11, 12-year-old with the puberty button almost be ready to hit, that is definitely a panic moment.
Yep. I mean, they kind of covered that in Riley's first date.
Yeah, they do. Actually, take that one again, because I think you coughed out date.
We've said it before. Well, say it one more time. Well worth it. I think it's something to see in theaters.
It's gorgeous.
They use their budget really well. Like it still looks like Inside Out. It's not quite the upgrade that like the Incredibles had to Incredibles 2, where like the backgrounds are just like so much more immaculate compared to the first one. But like they definitely use their budget well. Like there's some real glory shots where you can see the like fuzziness on the lines and like the speckles coming off of Joy, and
the ice looks like ice and just shimmers.
Yeah.
There's a few shots of the skates that they just close up on skates. I'm like, are they just filming people skating? What's happening here?
Which you talked about Pixar needing to back off on the hyperrealism. We need to start wrapping up, but I just got to say this, like Toy Story 4 got a lot of shit because they had a very realistic looking cat in the antique shop. And they're like, how did we go from this boxy looking dog to this? And I swear Pixar like heard the feedback on it. And there's a moment where like in the beginning, they're talking about Riley like taking care of stray cats, and they showed a cat and like, that looks like it belongs in Garfield.
Well, there's also like a shot, like one of the shots there. Well, okay, there's two definitive shots where I was like, they're just filming somebody. One of them was like the skates, the ice and the skates, but then they showed her like taking her puck and rubbing it along her the curve of the stick. Yeah, and I swear that was like an Avatar 2 moment of like the blue hand gripping the reins thing of like, is that photorealistic? That might be photorealistic. Is that, did he actually James Cameron actually make a blue person?
He has the money for it.
Yeah. Is Riley, did they actually just make a cartoon character pop briefly into the world just to rub the stick and pop back? We don't know. There's some weird things going on in Emeryville, California, I say.
So yeah, this is definitely a must see. Like I said, I took my two oldest to go see it. They both really enjoyed it. They're 6 and 8. The only part of the movie that they even like, it's not that they weren't interested in it, but it gave them a little sense of anxiety, was the brainstorm. So if you have younger kids, I think it's very appropriate for them. I think especially if you have that pre-tween, like 8 to 10, 11-year-old. This is like going to be a perfect movie for them because they're going to be able to relate to a lot of the stuff happening.
Definitely.
All right, Alex, well, let's start getting out of here. Who's doing the remix this week?
Bill Hader. We offered him more than Pixar and he did it.
All right. Did my mom get him a gift card too?
Oh, yes, she did. Mom's very generous with the gift cards, by the way.
She is. So, Alex, thanks so much for taking the time to be here. I know you got a whole head drilled in your brain, a hole drilled in your brain because you wanted that Lonnie money for trialing his implant.
Mm-hmm. I cannot play Skyrim with my mind.
Oh man, no, that's just the seizures happening. So please don't forget to join our Discord if you saw Inside Out or you want to talk about other things, comic books, superheroes, any TV shows that are happening. Join our Discord. There's a link in our episode description below. Please join and follow us on social media. We are at Talking Smack Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Hive Social, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Lonnie's website. Email us your thoughts, questions, opinions, reviews of things you've watched to tsmackpod@gmail.com. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes. Thank you to Beppo for our original avatars. Retro Rail Studios for our Ricky avatar. Please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. And most importantly, thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Watch Star Trek. Kartok Rarf Chikwa. Watch Star Trek. I'll say it backwards again so everyone can be subliminally done. Kitchek, Squaw. I can't remember the first time I did it. Damn it.
So this review is old. It's from January 20th, 2022, from Film Rocker. They said, it seems like each episode features a selection of different hosts. So with that, I tuned into 2 separate episodes, and I was truly entertained. The first was a cult classic video games, which that one was me and Becky, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
And if you're a gamer from the 2000s up, this episode is right up your alley. Though they do go in assuming you know what game they're talking about. So if you don't know the game or ever played it, there's no breakdown on the plot story of the game or any other details. It could leave you feeling a little lost. But for those that know, you're in for a ride. So aside from that, still very enjoyable. When it comes to those video games they talk about, they have their knowledge down. I also listened to the Oh Shit Moments, which is our first episode back when we revived, me and Beppo. This had to be my favorite, which, woo, they don't just list a series of moments. They paint you a picture and take you back to seeing it for the first time, which helps the listener if you know the moment. Travel back to when you were first experienced that moment. Truly a fun, enjoyable show. 5 stars. Film Rocker,
Aw.
I really appreciate that review. I wish I had seen it sooner. I apologize for taking 2.5 years to see it, but that is a lovely review, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much. And with that, everyone, again, take care.